This is so sick, guys. I am behind the scenes to seeing how this bumper is being made. Welcome back to the Tacoma Beast channel. Today's video, you're going to witness from start to finish how a Tacoma front bumper is made. If you don't have a Tacoma, don't worry, as this process is technically similar for all other truck models and will give you a general idea of what it takes. With that said, I hope you guys enjoy this process as much as I did. Now let me introduce you to Kalil, the mastermind behind this bumper.
All right, so right now we're actually removing all of the hardware that holds on the bumper. So there's 3 on each side. There's 1, 2, and then 3 in that hole. So we're gonna get this off and then, start figuring out what we wanna keep and what we wanna take off as far as clearance for the frame, so. Oh yeah, that's a big weight on the front, man. Alrighty, we got that off. Now we have a fresh platform to start building our bumper. So right now we're gonna get our main tube done first. So what I like to do is just build the bumper first, and then from there you can figure out the design layout and where you want to land the bottom tubes and all that stuff. So yeah, so I have some plates we're gonna slide onto the frame, start forming a bumper, and get to bending. So it's gonna be a lot of time-consuming parts from here on out, but it's worth it at the end. All right, let's get the plates on there. All right, so now I'm putting this piece of tape just because we are going to be fabricating next to this, and you want to make sure we don't scratch it. So what I can do with this is I could also mark center on the grill, and if I want to put some notes on the fiberglass for where I want to add a bend, I can do that easily with the tape rather than drawing on the truck. So, all right, so we got that up. I'm gonna get my pipe stand so I can start forming the main tube.
What is that for?
So right now I'm just measuring the main tube size. So I'm gonna wrap this tape measure all the way around, and then I'll go to our raw material rack, which is right here, and we can figure out how long this is gonna be. Oh. Ow, that happens a lot. Sorry, pup.
This is so cool, guys. You guys get to see all the hard work that goes behind this. Hours
Hours.
of labor.
Oh yeah. Okay, so now let's get our tubing bender over here, and we can start bending this thing up.
This is so cool, guys. Like, this machine right here is amazing. I'm totally geeking out right now. Just seeing how all this is made is incredible.
So we got 37 degrees on that. I just have always liked to see a bumper snug where it, where it needs to be snug. In the front, you want to kick it out a little bit to offer some protection, but on the corners, I like to have it just flush with the body. Gives a cleaner look. So we got centered there. So now we're gonna work on our outside bends, which we'll need our angle finder for. Where's our angle finder? Oh, it's over here. So this is the part that people don't know what's involved with these bumpers, is how much pulling on and off the truck, on and off the truck. Just to get it perfect, it's easy to just bend a bumper up, but to have it follow the body lines and make it look good when it's done. That looks pretty damn good.
Dude, that looks, guys, look at that. Look how good this is looking, man. And then, like he mentioned, leaving some space
for light packaging.
I really want to convince Dustin to put some LP9s.
Yep.
We'll see. We'll see what we do for lighting.
We're getting there, guys. We're getting there.
Wow, that's crazy, guys. So that's resembling the tube right there. And you guys can see how far in it's gonna go to give it that angle that we want.
Obviously, it's not gonna touch the radiator, but it'll be a lot more sleek and tucked up in there like this. So right now we're cutting more tubing for the uprights to hold the main tube bumper in place. So the bandsaw takes a little bit of time, but it cuts nicely, so that's why I use it. We gotta notch it, miter cut the bottom side, and then we'll tack it in place and we'll have the start of a bumper.
Guys, I'm fascinated by all this machinery right here. Like, this is another one that I really like. Watch, this is gonna be sick.
So this is actually meant to mill parts, but you can use a tool for anything as long as, you know, it works.
You know how to use it?
You know how to use it. So I've used this as a mill for a long time and it works great. Or a notcher.
Look how cool this machine is.
1956. I'm not kidding. So now we got our nice notch there and we can get it all tack welded up.
Dude, perfect fit.
So I'm gonna clean up all the burrs around here and then we'll do this bottom cut. Okay, so we got this cleaned up. So you wanna sand all the way around it so you get a nice clean weld. So this is where it just becomes like a years of experience kind of thing. It's kind of hard to teach this part, but I've done this enough where I know how far I need to cut and the angle. And I use, you know, a Sharpie and some eyeballs to figure out exactly where we want it. We're about to tack weld this tube on, but we're gonna disconnect the battery just to make sure we don't have any issues with arcing out through the ECU or any funny business. This is where the perfectionism ends up eating me alive because probably can weld that, but I'm gonna get it all the way on that plate and gotta sand a little more. So here we go.
The man is a perfect.
So what I've done on a lot of trucks too is I'll give a little gap in between here, just a small gap, because the Tacoma core support, everything that's mounted on the front end is mounted with a rubber bushing, which is right here. Looks like Dustin replaced his at some point in time because the factory ones are a lot squishier. But what will happen is when you off-road, this whole thing will move like that, and I give a little bit of clearance. That way it just doesn't touch the bumper all the time and chafes the paint away. Which sometimes if you're doing heavy off-road use, it's inevitable because your front end just coming down and up, down and up. Another thing you want to inspect on your Tacomas, which looks like I just found one right here, but the core supports do crack a lot. So yeah, you want to check that out all the time.
That's how you know if someone rides hard.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So if you don't have that on your truck,
you're not sending it enough.
You're not sending it enough. Stay away from the mall parking lots, right? Just kidding.
How's it looking?
It's looking pretty good. We just got to do the other side and we can get our sands out of the way. So a lot of people are probably looking at this right now and thinking, why is this idiot doing this without gloves on? But when you're working a bandsaw, you typically don't want to have gloves on because if your glove catches that blade, it's not going to end pretty. That's not advice to do that, by the way.
Right now we're trying to decide where to mount the bottom of the bumper, right? The bottom part of the bumper to the frame.
Yep. So,
and you're dealing with a lot of hurdles because on the second gen, this crossbar right here is just sitting way too low. On the third gen, this is way higher. And how is that a problem?
So the problem is with the second gen, you know, on a pre-runner bumper, you want the most approach angle as possible. So picture trying to work around the subframe on the second gen, it's significantly higher up and the grill's higher up. So basically you're gonna have like a snowplow in the front, which you don't want that on a pre-runner bumper. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna get rid of this and we're gonna add our tube structure from this A-pillar or this main tube tied into our down pillars that go down to the frame, which we're gonna bolt somewhere down here. We're still figuring out that part. So yeah, I mean, you know, on a truck at this level, you're gonna have to work with modifying the frame if you want it to be a good, solid build, you know? I mean, this isn't just like a mall collar truck is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you know, it's time to cut it. I love how that tool just cuts like butter.
Right.
It cuts steel like butter, man. Look at this.
Scrap bin?
Scrap bin.
All right, here we go. All right, guys, so we're gonna start building the lower subframe for this bumper. And our 3rd gen Tacoma bumper does grab onto these tabs right here. But just for the sake of what Dustin's gonna be doing with this truck, jumping it and, you know, doing like high speed stuff, we are gonna get rid of these. They are plenty strong. You're gonna see how hard it is to take these off. But he is gonna take this truck to a whole new level. So we're gonna rip these off and grab onto the frame, probably either down here or up here. We'll see. Yeah, so here we go.
Dude, woo, it's a workout.
Oh yeah. Eyes? They always do this on the show too. I'm like, all right, I'm not the only person.
So that's just holding it in place so I can measure and make sure it's symmetrical. 5 1/4.
All right, so right now, in my opinion, this is like the most important part of a bumper build is making sure everything looks properly proportioned to the truck. So right now I just have some tape up here to get an idea of where our main tubes are gonna go and where the skid plate's gonna land. So yeah, from here, we'll get some tubes cut out, notched, welded up, and we'll be on our way for the next step. It's a long road. Trying to land this up here, land that there. So we're gonna clean this out, clean that out so it's got a nice notch where it's easy to weld around. Okay. It's looking pretty good. She's getting there. We clean off some of this WD-40 on here and we get tack her in place. Eyes? Sorry, Mom. What do you think, Dustin?
It's going faster than I thought. It's crazy.
We're slowing him down. We're definitely slowing him down.
Just a little bit. All right, so now doing our down tubes, we have our whole lower subframe ready to go. And as you can see, this tube is interfering with the radiator. So we're just gonna add a slight bend to give it that clearance that it needs. And then we can go ahead and notch the top, notch the bottom, tack it in place, and then do the other side. So here we go. Yeah, super slight bend.
Oh, I love that.
So now, gotta go a little more. Actually, that could work. All right, so we just got done doing that notch. Looks pretty damn good. So now we gotta do the upper one. And this is where it gets tricky because if it's not perfect, you're gonna have to redo this whole tube, which is gonna suck. No pressure. Okay. Everyone's gonna be like, what? That's all he does? All of our gaps are good.
So what are you working on now?
So just trying to get an idea of where we want this tube to land and how we want it to form, but I'm thinking something like that with a slight bend in it. We'll just give it the right high clearance, give that protection that you need on this tube right here. And then we'll tie this tube into this tube because that's just what I've always done, and it makes it all a lot stronger than some people will just not have anything right here. But yeah, she's getting there. So I had to tweak this AC line a little bit, which this stuff is super malleable. You can just kind of move it, but I had to move it to get this tube to clear right there. So might need to add a little more bend to this, which would mean I have to break the tack on this side. It's just one of those last parts of the build where it takes a lot more time than people think, but it comes with a little bit of loving and grinding and sanding and sweat. One thing that I always do is, you know, with these bumpers, you want to make them look 100% symmetrical. So I take this bar before I'm about to weld any bumper in place, and I run it right here. And from a top portion, you can see this gap right here is a little bigger from this side. So it's showing us that this notch on this side needs to move up a little bit. So when the skid plate's on there, it all looks flush and even. You know, you don't want a bumper that looks all crooked or your skid plate isn't sitting flat. So this is like just a trick of the trade, I guess you could say, to see before you cut the skid plate out, before you weld everything in place. So cut the tack off on this side, reposition that notch, and we're pretty much done with the main portion of this bumper, which took a long time, but it takes a long time if you want to do it right.
So Mr. Kalil, is
Yes.
it Kalil approved?
It is. We're good now. So now we have a straight line across, which is
That's crazy.
ready to go. Now she's ready for a skid plate. So the skid plate will come up about halfway on this tube. It's just the small details that nobody ever sees. All right, guys, so I made sure all the tubes are in the right position. Now it's time to get to welding.
Kalil, what are you working on now, my man?
All right, guys, so we're getting ready to form these outside tubes. So I'm gonna get my tape measure, figure out what length I want, and bend it just because I do want a little bend in it. And we're right about 19 inches. So cut her up, bend her up. Let's do it. So those are just like the small details that people probably don't even notice, but you know, when you see it, it adds some character to the bumper. It's not just a straight tube. There's a little bit of love in every corner. All right, so I just got this tiny little stubby tube notched and ready to get tacked in place. So this is what I was talking about earlier, how I like to tie this tube into the main support. She goes. Good. All right, guys, so we finally got this tube bent. It's kind of hard to tell, but it's got a subtle bend in it. And we're tacking her in place, so here we go.
All right, Kalil, so all the tubes are in place, right? Do you think you're gonna add any more tubes to this bumper?
I think I'm gonna add one more tube just because we got rid of the subframe and you're gonna expose your radiator a lot more now. So we're gonna add a tube right here just to keep things from pushing into the...
And then from that, what would we do?
After that, we're gonna skin it for the skid plate, pull it off, weld it all the way, put it back in place, and she'll be good, ready for powder coat.
Dude, it's insane how the lines just come in like that. Like
Right?
once you see it from far away,
Thanks.
all the lines just match. It's incredible, man. You're killing it.
We got a nice gap up here too. This is perfect. This is how you want your joints to be. Just a little more gap. The weld's always the strongest part of the joint, so, and you always want it nice and straight too, so. So one cool little tech tip is when you're getting ready to do your final weld, cut that little ball on the end. It's hard to see that ball, but cut that and start all over. It'll give a much smoother start. Now we can weld her all the way.
That is beautiful. Look at that. Look at that. Wow, man. That is so cool, dude.
We're getting ready to cut the ends, cap them.
Okay, so usually I'll use a Sawzall to do this, but it's just sometimes the cutoff wheel is a lot more accurate. Sawzall blade can walk a little bit, so to do it right requires a little more work sometimes. I got it from here. All right, so now got a plate. We're getting ready to cut the ends for the bumper. So I cut out a little small section, and if you see here, it's like being in elementary school again. Trace it, and then we'll fine tune it once we cut it out. All right, so now that we have this, let's get this tacked on. This part is actually a part of the process with all our bumpers that people buy online. Gets welded, sanded, and blended. Takes a lot longer than people think, and they don't see the time that goes into just a simple bumper cap, but you guys will see right now. So step 1, weld. Step 2, sand. Here we go. So we just want to make sure that it looks even all the way around, which it does. And we're ready for step 3. Step 3, we got our DA sander. So what this does is just kind of hides all the big scuff marks that the heavy sander made on the bumper. So we're just gonna go to town on this guy. Just kidding. This is my favorite part of the bumper because I'm almost done.
You get me?
Yep. All right, guys, we got our skid plate drawn out. So we're gonna take our plasma cutter and cut this little girl up. So a plasma is really tricky to get a nice clean cut on the edge on a piece this long. So we're gonna use a bandsaw to cut a straight line. Obviously we're gonna have to add a bend to this now because we added a bend to the tubing. Okay, let's do it. So we added a slight bend to it.
That was so fast.
Actually, it's looking like we can get away with that one bend. I'm gonna add a little more and see what it does. So. Ever so slightly. I don't know, guys. What do you think?
That looks perfect. That was it. 2 bends and done.
2 bends. All right, you're gonna have a truck here, Dustin, soon. All right, guys, so we just got this thing freshly painted. Got to be careful installing it because obviously you don't want to scratch it. So here we go.
All right, moment of truth.
Final fitment check. We probably should have checked this before filming it, but like I said, live life on the edge.
Holy cow. Dustin, did not see it yet. Stay there, okay? All right, Dustin, come see it.
Dude, that looks so sick.
All right, guys, that about wraps it up for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to smash that like button. If you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe. Click that bell icon so you get notified when we release new videos, and I'll see you on the next one.
Give me a freaking hug, man. We did it. We did it, guys.
That's so sick.